This is the World Financial Report on radio with Harold Siegel. My name is Randy Marshall. Joining us via the telephone, our financial expert, Harold Siegel. We're taping the show July 15th, 2011, approximately 8:43 in the morning Mountain, 10:43 Eastern. Radio show runs on AM 640 in Toronto, 630 CHED in Edmonton. If you ever miss a radio show, you can catch us on Harold's website. Shows are archived there, HESradio.com, HESradio.com. For those that have been listening to our radio show for a long time, or even a short period of time, getting the newsletter, what's been happening this week with the sovereign debt crisis and with the problems in the United States, obviously Congress there fighting over the debt ceiling and the budget issues, none of this would have been a surprise to you, because we mentioned it on our show months ago that when they got to this point, fighting over the debt ceiling and the budget, it would be difficult. As well, we said in the past, when it came to sovereign debt, all they had done was kick the can down the road when they did little fixes in the past. The truth is, Harold, we are in a time where this is very, very serious when it comes to looking out for your personal finances. A lot of landmines out there, as we've said in the past. Sovereign debt crisis is not going away anytime soon. The problems in the United States not going away anytime soon. And that's why we say, listen to our radio show, get our free newsletter, because you need to be protected in the times that we live in. They are very, very crazy.
You better believe it, Randy. And again, the markets are certainly reflecting what's happening around the world. This week was an amazing week for precious metals. The fact is that gold has hit record highs 3 days in a row, and now on Friday, as we're taping the show, it's the fourth day. We're now looking at gold is trading as high as $1,590. There's a little bit of resistance at $1,600, but we should have no problem pushing through $1,600 gold. We did predict at the beginning of the year that we would see $1,850 gold, and we are sticking with that number. We're very comfortable that we should hit very close to $1,850 gold by the end of this year. Silver's on a tear. Silver did hit a high this year of $50. Then we saw that ridiculous pullback that brought it back to $32.70. There's very heavy support in silver at $32, and basically the market never broke that $32 level. In fact, this week we had 3 days where the market was up substantially. In fact, on Wednesday, silver was up as much as $2.40 on the day. So now as we're taping the show, silver's trading just 2 pennies below $39. So since the market pulled back to $32.70, we've seen about a $7 increase in the price of silver, and that shows you how strong this market is. Now, we all felt that basically what they did to the silver market, not to gold, but what they did to the silver at the beginning of May was absolutely ridiculous and criminal. However, what you did see in a very thin market is silver getting to $50 for the appropriate reasons. Sovereign debt situations in Europe, major financial problems in the United States, heavy inflation all around the world. Those are the reasons that you want to own the metals. And again, when silver dropped from $50 to $32, it scared a lot of people, and it should. There's no market that should drop that fast for absolutely no reason. In fact, the fundamentals for silver were the strongest that they've been. Now we're back up to almost $39. There is no doubt in my mind that we will have a reenactment of the $50 level this year, and there are buy orders in the silver market and the futures market above 50. So once we hit the $50 level, we could easily break through that, and once those buy orders get hit, it would take us to $55 to $65 in silver very, very quickly. Again, I still believe that silver is greatly undervalued. There was a tremendous amount of buying in silver in the futures markets at $50, so obviously when it pulled back to $32.70, it should have been a phenomenal buy, but most people were petrified at that point. I think after seeing what happened this week, what we wanted to see was 2 closes in silver above $38. Now that we've gotten that, I believe it negates any possibility that the market could pull back to that $30 level that was possible earlier in the month. So at this point here, I think we're out of the woods. I think we're looking very safe. I think silver's a screaming buy at this particular price, and I do believe that by the end of the year, not only will we test the $50 level, but we could go well above that. We're so bullish on silver and gold because primarily of inflation, but there's so many other fundamental reasons to buy it. There's another major situation going on at this point that you should know about, and it's a new development in the gold and silver market. It's a gold and silver exchange in China. It could literally take the price of silver to levels that nobody has ever dreamed of before. We know from past shows, and we report it almost every week, how the government is behind buying massive amounts of gold and silver and are actually enticing the citizens of China to do the same thing. Now they're coming out with their own exchange, and the feelings are by whistleblower Andrew McGee, and you got to read that. He's the guy that knew that J.P. Morgan was manipulating the markets in Europe. He's now come out with a report, and it's in the newsletter, talking how this new gold and silver exchange in China can absolutely destroy the shorts that have tried to hurt the market in the past. So you got to get the newsletter this week. It's totally free of charge. We never charge for anything like that. We don't charge for the radio show or anything. Again, the information that we give is imperative for our Canadian clients and listeners to understand what's going on. We're heading into the most difficult and confusing times that most of us have ever been through. Most of us are not old enough to have gone through the Great Depression, so basically seeing what's going on right now is fairly new. Now, I've got to say that it's not so new for myself because I've been trading in these markets for 35 years, one of the top commodity traders, and basically I've seen this before. I've been through the gold and silver run-ups in the early 70s to the late 70s and 80s, and I've kept very, very accurate notes. That's why it was very feasible 10 years ago when I saw similar market conditions to have gone on the radio and recommended to our listeners to buy gold at $2.50 and silver at $4. There is no doubt that we're heading towards one of the worst inflationary times that we've ever seen, and if you're not prepared for that, you're going to be the same as everybody else. You're going to be paying extremely high prices for milk and for food and for gas and for clothes and for every single thing that we do. Our income is not going to go up, and if you're investing in the wrong way, you're going to be in the same situation as 90% of the rest of the people in North America and the world that are investing in the wrong way. You've got to go back in history and understand why markets do certain things at certain times. And if you go back to the late 70s when we had massive inflation, we had problems in the Middle East, we had record high oil prices, we saw a situation where gold went from $35 in the early 70s all the way up to $850, and most of that move came during 79 and 80. And basically, we're in a very similar market to that now with the inflation and the problems in the Middle East and all that type of thing. In 1982, Mexico defaulted on their loans, and gold went up 50% in a couple months. So we're looking at situations right now where you need to be in the hard asset markets. And again, we're heading into probably the heaviest inflationary times we've ever seen. And if you don't invest correctly, the fact is that what we're really doing is we're really hedging against these things happening. We've been buying oil since it was at $18. We've been buying gold since it was at $2.50, and we've been buying silver since it was at $4, and we bought the euro at 87 cents. So basically, we're almost inflation-proof. For the listeners to this radio show and the clients of ours that are in the gold and silver and diamond market at this particular point in oil, you should be in a very, very strong situation. I know that the summers bring stress to all of us. You know, the fact is that we see the run-ups in these markets. We've been in the markets for a decade. We've made a ton of money in the gold and silver market. Let's face it, if you took our advice 10 years ago, bought 10,000 ounces of physical silver at $4, it's now worth $400,000. And again, before this whole thing is over, it's probably going to be worth about $2 million when silver hits $200. So the fact is that, you know, we go through this every summer. We get a little bit nervous in May, June, and July when the markets fall. But just go back in history and look at it. It's a seasonal trade. It happens every single year. And the fact is we get into, you know, the end of July, the market starts to straighten itself out. August, September, October are the three biggest months, believe it or not, for gold and silver trading. And a lot of that has to do with the wedding situation or the wedding season in India. Then the market goes a little bit dead and goes sideways in November, and then December, January, and February, you know, we see strong moves again. Now, what we're seeing right now, and we did alert our listeners to this, that it was very possible that we could see a rally in the markets prior to the seasonal trade being over, and that's what we're experiencing this week. Silver has moved up almost $3 in 1 week. Congratulations to everybody that is in the gold and silver market. And again, the gold market hit record prices almost every single day this week. We have a little bit of resistance at 1,600. We're at 1,590 now. We should break through 1,600 with no problem, and we should hit our price of 1,850 by the end of the year. The other thing is that the U.S. dollar has actually gone up this week, and silver has rallied, and so has gold when the U.S. dollar has gone up. But the U.S. dollar has really only gone up against the euro, which is getting absolutely hammered because now Italy, and everybody's very sad about this, but Italy is on the verge of bankruptcy. So is, as we know, Greece, Portugal, and Spain and Ireland. It's just getting to be an unbelievable situation, and the same thing is happening in the United States. I know we scratch our head and say, how in the world is this possible? It's possible because of greed and stupidity. And the fact is that when you're heavily leveraged, like the governments and the banks and Wall Street is, everything is great when the money's going your way. But when the markets go against you and you're heavily leveraged, you lose everything very, very quickly. That's why we're saying buy physical precious metals, buy gold and silver. Do not heavily leverage because you'll get knocked out of the market. We want to be in this market for the next 5 years. In fact, if we don't make a fortune in the next 5 years, then shame on us. We've been right on top of this market. We're situated perfectly. We know what's happening because we've been in these markets before. We're entering into the biggest bull market in gold and silver and colored diamonds that we have ever seen, and we've got 5 years to make a ton of money. And again, by listening to this radio show, by getting our free newsletter, and by getting into the right markets, gold, silver, and diamonds, not only are you going to get through these difficult times, but you're going to make a fortune of money. We're in a massive bull market in those three markets, gold, silver, and diamonds, and I couldn't be more excited. We've been doing this for a decade now.
Those that listen to us every week, get our newsletter, have not been surprised by what has happened. We have alerted you to it. I hope that you've taken advantage of investing in precious metals, protecting and profiting from what's happening in the world today. To invest in precious metals, the telephone number 1-866-623-2002. There's only one company that Harold recommends. That is Worldwide Precious Metals. Their website, wwpmc.com, wwpmc.com. The telephone number, 1-866-623-2002. That is the only company that Harold tells you to deal with on the precious metals side of things. We do have a fantastic newsletter. We would be more than happy to send it out to you free of charge every week. If you'd like to get your name on the list, go to Worldwide's website. You can sign up. They'll send it to you free of charge, or you can call them, speak with them, and they'll get your name on the list. We send it out every week via email free of charge. 1-866-623-2002, the website, wwpmc.com. Breaking news this morning. This is not in the newsletter, but it is breaking news this morning from Ambro Evans Pritchard. It's from the Telegraph. We'll put it in the newsletter next week. Return of the gold standard as world order unravels. As the twin pillars of international monetary systems threaten to come tumbling down in unison, gold has reclaimed its ancient status as the anchor of stability. Now, Ambrose Evans Pritchard, he's been writing about finances for a long, long time, written a lot of articles on precious metals. He actually writes in this article, he spoke with Peter Hambro, chairman of Britain's biggest pure gold listing, Petropavlovsky, and he says it's very scary. That's what Peter Hambro is saying. It's very scary. The flight to gold is accelerating at a faster and faster speed. One of the big U.S. banks texted me today saying that if QE3 actually happens, we could see gold at 5,000 and silver at 1,000. I feel terribly sorry for anyone on fixed incomes tied to a fiat currency because they are not going to be able to buy things with that paper money. He goes on in the article to talk about possibly gold being used in a gold standard. But, Harold, that's amazing to me. You have somebody like Peter Hambro coming out and saying that if quantitative easing 3 does happen, and David Rosenberg from Gluskin Sheff here in Canada in Toronto had a piece that I saw on zerohedge.com saying that he believes QE3 is a given. There may even be QE4, 5, and 6. So if we get to quantitative easing 3, 4, 5, or 6, I think very easily we could see $5,000 gold, $1,000 silver. We are in crazy times financially, and you can see what's happening in the United States where they can't get things together, and even if they do, really it's only a short-term fix to their long-term problems. Over in Europe, they have some serious issues. Major issues that won't be dealt with for years and years and years, which leads me to believe that precious